Before he was known as the Wise, he was a slave. Before his words were carved into revelation, he walked in chains. His name stands immortal in the Qur'an. His advice is recited in homes, classrooms and khutbahs across the world. But behind the wisdom, behind the legendary calmness, behind the verses that bear his name, there was a man with a story that began in dust and chains, a story that traveled through deserts, palaces, prisons and kingdoms. A story of slavery, freedom, re-enslavement, miracles, encounters with prophets, and a search for a secret mankind can only imagine. Some said he found an elixir that could extend life. Some said he spoke to plants. Some said the whole world knew his cures. But Allah knew him as something far greater, a man of Hikmah, a man of deep divine wisdom. Today, we go deep into his life. This is the story of Luqman the Wise, the man whose name became a surah in the Quran. Before we begin, hit subscribe so you never miss our next stories. Like the video to help the message reach more hearts, and comment where you're watching from. We love seeing friends from all over the world. If you're ready, let's begin. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Nearly 3,000 years ago, long before the rise of empires we know today, the Upper Nile Basin was a land filled with conflict, culture, and ancient memories. This was Nubia, the land that today forms parts of Sudan and southern Egypt. Picture it, hot winds rolling across endless dunes, villages built from clay and straw. The Nile cutting through the land like a green ribbon of life, and above all, the growing shadow of the Egyptian pharaohs. Egypt and Nubia had warred for centuries. Some years the Egyptians advanced, taking gold, ivory, and yes, slaves. Other years the Nubians pushed back, capturing Egyptians themselves. It was a world where freedom came and went like the river's flood. And into this world a child was born. His name was Luqman. He did not open his eyes in a palace. He did not see noble faces or silken curtains. He was born inside a small hut, a slave's home, to a father named Bora, one of thousands captured in conflict. Luqman's skin was dark, his appearance simple, his clothing rough, but behind his eyes there was something unusual, something his masters could not understand, something his fellow slaves could not name: silence and depth. While other children played, Luqman observed. While others complained, he listened. While others slept, he gazed at the stars, wondering about creation. No one taught him wisdom. No book sat on his shelf. No scholar sat in front of him. Nature was his teacher. Years passed, and young Luqman's mind grew sharper, not from privilege, but from reflection. It was as if Allah was preparing him, long before the world ever recognized him. By his teenage years, Luqman was given simple tasks: herding sheep, cutting wood, gathering plants, repairing tools. But during these tasks, something extraordinary began to happen. Whenever he held a leaf between his fingers, he sensed its properties. When he smelled a flower, he understood its use. When he looked at a plant, he felt whether it healed, harmed, or nourished. It was a gift, a divine insight. Not magic, not sorcery, but hikmah, wisdom and understanding from Allah. Luqman began collecting herbs in small pouches. He boiled leaves in old clay pots. He experimented on wounded animals that shepherds brought to him. He observed how roots, seeds and minerals reacted. Soon, without anyone teaching him, he mastered a form of herbal medicine that would later become legendary. One day, a young girl was brought to him, feverish, trembling, near death. He crushed a bitter root, mixed it with honey, and placed it on her tongue. Within a day she recovered. Word spread across the village, then across nearby settlements. The slave boy knows healing. The Nubian can cure fevers. The quiet one has knowledge. People came from other regions, bringing the sick, the injured, the hopeless. And with every cure, Luqman grew in reputation and in danger. In those times, Egypt and Nubian regions were full of magicians, not illusionists, but tricksters who used lies, symbols and superstitions to control people and take their wealth. Luqman's success was a threat to them. His cures exposed their falsehood. His authenticity ruined their business. Their hatred grew quietly until they set a plan in motion. Some narrations say they secretly bought Luqman from his master, freed him, and ordered him to leave the region forever. Other narrations, more famously told, describe a different path to freedom. One day his master commanded, "Slaughter a sheep, Luqman. Bring me the 2 best parts from it." Luqman obeyed. He returned with the heart and the tongue. The master raised his eyebrow, but he said nothing. The next day he ordered, "Slaughter another sheep and bring me the 2 worst parts." Luqman returned again, with the heart and the tongue. Now the master grew angry. "What is this? Do you mock me?" And Luqman responded with a calmness that would one day fill the Quran. "If the heart and tongue are pure, nothing is better. If the heart and tongue are corrupt, nothing is worse." The master froze. At that moment, he realized the slave standing before him was no ordinary young man. He freed him immediately. And so Luqman walked away, not as a slave, not as a servant, but as a free man. Freedom had come to him for the first time. But the journey ahead was long and filled with trials. The first place Luqman traveled after his freedom was Egypt, the land of the Nile, the temples, the pharaohs, and the ancient sciences. Egypt was powerful, wealthy, and full of contradictions. On one side, they possessed advanced knowledge in engineering, mathematics, and medicine. On the other side, superstition and sorcery dominated the common people. When Luqman arrived, his cures immediately drew attention. Egyptians, Nubians, merchants, travelers, all came seeking help. But fame is a double-edged sword. The court magicians grew furious. A foreigner, a former slave, was healing the sick better than they ever could. Their pride was wounded, their income was threatened, and so they plotted again. This time, they went to the authorities. Some accused him of sorcery, others claimed he used forbidden arts, others simply said he must be stopped. Eventually, the pharaoh's soldiers arrested him, bound him in chains, and dragged him into a dark underground prison, just like Prophet Yusuf before him, just like thousands after him. But Luqman did not break. He had tasted slavery. He had passed through hardship many times. He knew the weight of chains well. Prison was only another classroom for him. He spent his years there treating wounded prisoners, studying the mold on the walls, the herbs growing in cracks, the minerals in the soil, and above all he spent his nights in worship, quietly, patiently, reflecting on Allah's signs. Time passed, months, years, until one day, without explanation, the doors were unlocked, his sentence was complete, and he walked out of prison with a heart wiser than before. This was the second time in his life Allah freed him from chains. And just like fire purifies metal, prison purified his soul. After leaving Egypt, Luqman traveled north, through deserts and valleys, through small villages and great cities, until the hills of Palestine rose in the distance. This was a sacred land, the land of revelation, the land of prophets, and in that era, a powerful and righteous man ruled the children of Israel, Prophet Dawud, peace be upon him. A prophet with a voice that softened hearts, a king whose recitation made the mountains echo and the birds hover in praise, a man who bent iron with his bare hands through a miracle from Allah. Here, Luqman's story reached a new chapter, because when Luqman met Dawood, 2 worlds collided, a prophet with a kingdom and a wise man with no throne, one with revelation and one with reflection, one with miracles and one with wisdom. Their relationship would become one of the most beautiful teacher-student friendships in Islamic history. Luqman began attending the gatherings of Dawood, sitting quietly, listening deeply, absorbing every word. Some narrations say Dawood appointed him to assist in matters of teaching. Others say he accompanied Dawood during his sermons or visits. But all narrations agree on one thing: there was respect, deep respect, mutual respect. One day, Luqman entered the private workshop of Prophet Dawood. Inside, Dawood was shaping iron rings, heating them, bending them, connecting them carefully. Luqman watched. He wanted to ask, "O Prophet of Allah, what are you making?" But his wisdom held his tongue. Instead, he sat silently for minutes, then hours. He simply observed how Dawood shaped each ring until they formed a full suit of armor. When Dawood finally put it on, he smiled. "This is armor, protection for war." Luqman nodded and said the famous sentence that later spread across the world: "Silence is wisdom, but very few practice it." Dawood understood instantly. This man was unlike any other he had met. Another narration tells of a conversation between them. Dawood said, "O Lukman, I see that you live peacefully, though you possess little. People love you deeply, though you do not chase them. What led you to this honor?" Lukman replied, "I never lied, I never betrayed a trust, and I left what did not concern me." Dawood's eyes widened. "These," he said, "are qualities difficult for kings and common people alike. You have mastered what many fail to attempt." Time passed. Years passed. Lukman lived among the people of Palestine, teaching, advising, healing, and then his journey took another unexpected turn. After years of peace in the land of Palestine, Lukman felt a desire to travel once more. He was older now, wiser, known across villages and marketplaces. People sought him for judgment, counsel, and healing, but the world beyond was still dangerous. Trade routes were plagued by raiders. Empires fought for land, wealth, and slaves. Caravans vanished in the deserts like footprints under a rising dune. And one summer, as Lukman traveled with a group of merchants heading east toward Babylon, fate struck again. A band of raiders descended from the mountains, skilled horsemen, masked and merciless. They robbed the caravan, tied the survivors, and sold them in distant markets. Lukman, for the third time in his life, was taken into slavery, but something inside him remained unshaken, just like the first time, just like the second time. Chains could bind his hands, but not his wisdom. This time, he found himself sold in a bustling Babylonian town, a city full of astrologers, priests, and herbalists. But Babylon was not like Nubia or Egypt. Here, knowledge was respected, even in slaves. One day, a wealthy Babylonian merchant fell gravely ill. His servants searched for healers, priests chanted spells, herbalists mixed complex concoctions. Nothing worked, until one old woman, a slave herself, whispered, "There is a Nubian, chained in the lower stalls. He knows the secrets of plants." Desperate, the merchant summoned Lukman. Lukman examined him silently, asked for certain herbs, boiled them in water, and cooled the mixture with clay pots buried partly in the earth. Within hours, the merchant's fever dropped. Within days, he walked again. The cure was so unexpected, so swift, that the merchant was shaken. He called for Lukman privately. "How long have you served?" he asked. Lukman replied, "I have served 3 masters, and they have all passed on, while I continue my journey." The merchant stared at him. "You speak like a free man." And Lukman said softly, "A slave whose heart belongs to Allah is freer than a king whose soul is imprisoned." The merchant freed him immediately. This was the 3rd time Allah granted him freedom. Each time, the chains got heavier, and each time the wisdom inside him grew deeper. Then stories of Lukman's cures traveled across the lands. Some said he created an antidote that could pull poison from the blood. Others said he discovered a mineral that restored sight. Others whispered that he found a mixture that kept a man youthful far longer than ordinary life. But one story became the most famous, the legend of the formula that brought a man back from the edge of death. The story goes like this. A foreign king, some say he was from Anatolia, others say from Persia, fell ill with a sickness that left his body cold, but his heart beat faintly alive. No healer succeeded. No priest revived him. No magician dared touch him. Finally, a traveler mentioned the name of a wise man he had met in Palestine, Lukman, son of Bora. His cures are unlike any on earth. The king's attendants searched for him. When they found him, he was sitting beside a river, mixing powders into a clay bowl. They brought him to the palace. Lukman examined the king, then asked for 7 plants, some common, some rare, and 3 minerals from the palace workshop. He burned some, he crushed some, he boiled others, he let some cool overnight. Then he placed drops of the mixture onto the king's tongue. Hours passed, then the king's breathing strengthened, color returned to his face. His fingers twitched, his eyes opened. The palace erupted in shock. Who was this man? How did he know what no other healer knew? But Lukman only said, "It is Allah who cures. I only use what he created." The king offered him gold, servants, land, anything, but Lukman declined. "I seek no kingdom but the one with Allah." He left the palace quietly, but the legend of the formula spread like wildfire. Some tried to record it, others tried to steal it. Some even claimed they learned it. But Lukman, in every version of the tale, destroyed the mixture before anyone could replicate it. When asked why, he would say, "If Allah wills life, He gives it. If He wills death, no potion can stop it." There is a period in Luqman's life, a long one, that historians speak of only briefly. They call it the wandering years. During this time, he traveled alone through regions that today would be Jordan, Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and parts of Arabia. He lived simply, sometimes in huts, sometimes in caves, sometimes under the open sky. But during this era, his sayings became famous. People wrote them down, children memorized them, elders repeated them. Here are a few of the most known. Do not show your wisdom to the foolish. Do not hate one who advises you. A good friend is like a scent seller. Even if he gives you nothing, you benefit from standing next to him. Be humble, for the earth you walk on will one day cover you. His wisdom spread far beyond his travels. He became a teacher, a judge, a mediator, and a counselor, but above all, he became a father. This part of Luqman's life is immortalized in the Qur'an. It captures not his travels, not his cures, not his journeys, but his heart as a father. The Qur'an reveals moments of him speaking to his son, moments filled with love, clarity, and deep truth. O my son, do not associate anything with Allah. His first advice was the most important, Tawheed, pure oneness of Allah. Then he spoke of gratitude, be grateful to Allah. Then he taught him morality, then humility, then prayer, then character, then courage, then patience. The Quranic verses paint a picture of a father watching his son grow into a young man, guiding him gently, speaking with the softness of someone who has seen the world and understood its traps. And the way he addressed him, Ya Bunaya, a tender phrase meaning my beloved son, is repeated across Islamic storytelling as the symbol of gentle parenting. These verses are the living legacy of Luqman, the wisdom Allah preserved forever. But what was not preserved in Revelation were the final chapters of his worldly life. For that we turn to historical narrations. After decades of traveling, healing, teaching, and witnessing the rise and fall of kings, Luqman returned to a small village near Palestine. He was old now, very old, some say nearing 100 years, some say even more, but his mind remained sharp, his voice remained calm, his steps remained steady. People still visited him. Children gathered to hear his stories. Merchants came for advice. Sick travelers sought cures. But Luqman began withdrawing from public life. He spent long hours in solitude. He watched the sunrise quietly. He reflected during the cool evenings. He prostrated long in prayer. One night, a neighbor said he saw Luqman sitting under a tree, looking at the stars, whispering softly, "O Allah, you placed me among slaves, and you freed me again and again. You humbled me again and again. You honored me again and again. I ask only that you grant me the wisdom to return to you with a peaceful heart." The next morning, Luqman did not rise from his place. He had passed away in the night, peacefully, quietly, without palace bells or royal ceremonies. But when word spread, crowds from towns and villages flocked to attend his burial. He had no wealth to leave behind, no castle, no monument, no kingdom, only stories, only wisdom, only remembrance, and that was enough to place him in the Qur'an. Luqman's wisdom traveled far beyond the borders of his lifetime. Generations repeated his sayings, writers collected his proverbs, religious teachers narrated his stories, and every Muslim who recites Surah Luqman, every father who teaches his son humility, every mother who repeats his advice, every person who acts upon his guidance becomes part of his legacy. We do not know his exact age at death, nor the precise place where he was buried, nor every detail of his travels, but what we do know is enough. He began as a slave, he walked as a healer, he lived as a wise man, he spoke as a father, he died as a believer, and Allah chose him from all the people of the world to immortalize his name in the Qur'an. This was the full, detailed story of Luqman the Wise, his life, travels, miracles, wisdom, struggles, and legacy. If you want more stories like this of prophets, righteous servants, and the hidden chapters of Islamic history, make sure you subscribe and like the video. May Allah grant us wisdom like Luqman, patience like Ayub, and gratitude like Sulaiman. Until the next story, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.